When I was 15, I had horrible cystic acne. Looking at me, you actually might not have thought it was acne at all, just maybe a disfigurement or something. You know, my dermatologist actually told me that in 30 years of practice, it was one of the top 10 worst cases she had ever seen. Which is, of course, exactly what you want to hear when you're 15 and see the treatment protocol with cysts like mine is to inject them with steroids every freaking time. So a couple times a week, I would go to the doctors and receive my injections here and there and here, now and then, every week, again and again, until eventually a cyst on my left cheek grew into a giant, terribly infected abscess. And see, the fear is, when abscesses grow, as they did in my case, is that they might just quite literally explode on the patient's face. I'll never forget laying on the doctor's table as he told me to squeeze my mom's hand and began to cut into my face with a razor blade. Afraid, doesn't even begin to cover it. He told me not to squeeze my eyes shut unless I was trying to burst the abscess myself, so I just watched myself as blade ran over skin and then through it, more terror than pain, until he finally stopped and told me it was time to drain the blood and drain the pus like a 15-year-old face already turned to rust. The point of my story isn't actually what happened that day, it's what happened after. Because see, believe it or not, he didn't stitch me up afterwards. He just sent me out with a huge open wound and some cotton pads. And so every day I would hide the cotton pads in my lunchbox and sneak them out, and during social studies, every time I felt my infection begin to drain like little cotton umbrellas fighting bright red rain, and in that way I had it handled. Or at least I would have had it handled if it wasn't for my big old weakness, which is, of course, still to this day, happiness. Like, can't stop yourself from smiling. Happiness, because off-guard happiness makes me weak, so as my cheeks chubbied and dimples tweaked, inevitably my wound would reopen and leak, looking like all I was filled with was blood and bile, betrayed by my very own smile. I'm telling you this because I still experience this phenomena in new ways 9 years later. How it's the small acts of kindness and unexpected joys that can reopen my wounds. How it's the little acts of kindness that can tear the walls I built down to ruins. Now that I'm older, I understand the futility of trying to portray invincibility. Infection demands exposure in order for eventual healing and closure. And honestly, I'd rather it be that the pus and bad blood live outside of me, even if it isn't always pretty. You know, now that I am getting a little older, I'm starting to realize beyond a shadow of a doubt that maybe, just maybe, a smile isn't such a bad way to let the bad stuff out.